got bees?
Those are the ones. That is Lily. She has like a lowercase on his nose. He's in charge in his herd. They're the enforcers of behavior. So when they have somebody who's acting unruly, that lead mare will push them out of the herd. So they'll even go in and they'll go out in order of their pecking order. Right there is Dinah. So it's one of Doug's, and he was entertaining himself a bit. So we can do that against their back. This group, when they go out, is a little bit harder to see because they, this fence is like super easy. So and then we'll go hang out there and eat some grass and roll. And he plays a ton. I'm trying to walk on dry spot. The grass a little bit. I think we had so much rain. We've been through a lot together. Scratches like right underneath from having bug bites. Been smooth. She has not.
Go. Come down. Go down.
The dog stays up. So the kiln right now is at 1400 degrees, which is 1,000 degrees colder than its peak. But it will still take another 12 hours. Bins are different chemical compounds to make glazes. Pieces on, and you can tell when they're dry that they feel the same temperature. So if you put your hand on this one, you can feel that it's kind of a neutral temperature, and then put your hand on this one down here and you'll feel that it's cooler. It is on one of these bats so that you can pick it up and set it aside for it to dry a little bit before taking the piece off. And then once that piece is off, I set it on this table on some newspaper to dry. So these are called cookies. It's like having a little coaster for inside the kiln. So if your glaze drips, it drips on this and not on your kiln shelf to protect your kiln shelf. But yeah, we'll let things dry here, and then it goes back to the wheel to trim the bottom. Was my mother's high chair as a child with the legs cut down. So we figure out how much clay we want based off of the weight. So we'll get a wire. We use the wire to cut off a chunk. And then a mug, for example, I want it to be about 1 1/4 pound. And then we pat it into a ball because it will set on the wheel a little better. That's my dog getting upset upstairs because he hears the noise. Bring it over to the wheel and we slap it down in the middle. Which is good. And we need some water to get started because it has to be wet in order to slide. If we're sticky and it sticks to too many things and makes odd shapes rather than even shapes. So what I'm doing is I'm taking one hand and pushing it in toward its center, and the other hand on the top pushing it down. And if I anchor my left hand nice into my hip, then I get a nice stable, which I knew it was. You can see my fingers move when you put your hand on like you're turning a door handle. You have to do a little bit more. And you can see that my hand doesn't move, or it doesn't move quite as much. And then we're gonna open it, putting our fingers in the middle, pushing down, drawing it toward my belly. We're gonna compress the bottom, so we're gonna take a fingertip, you're gonna run it back and forth across that bottom to make that bottom nice and strong. Take a little bit off the edge. Let me slow that wheel down a little bit. I'm gonna draw up the sides, and I have my inside hand as kind of a guide, my outside hand doing a little bit of pushing and then drawing up. Let me compress the top again, that makes that top nice and strong. A little bit more water. Taking a little bit off the edge gives us a nice flat spot to stick the fingers. Nice place to start. And compress the top. You get a little bit of height out of it, and this next one is when I'm going to make a little bit of a shape to it. And once we have a shape, and we're gonna, it's gonna be a nice fat mug. One that like Scott likes. He likes fat ones. He drinks lots of caffeine and tea in the morning. We're gonna take the water off of the bottom on the inside, because if it is wetter on the bottom, then it will dry uneven, and if it dries uneven, it will cause cracks. So take the water out of the middle. And I'm gonna take this tool called a rib. We're just gonna clean up that bottom edge just a little bit. Saves a little bit of a step later on. This one we did. And then we'll set that bat off to the side for it to dry a little bit. Because what I was finding is, and sometimes I like this shape a little bit better sometimes if it's a little rounder, but it gets flattened a little bit when it goes onto the table. Sometimes glazes have things like clay in them so that it will bond with the piece. If you put too much on, then it will crack and break off. If you put too little on, then you see a lot of brush strokes. You know, again, I tend to do like 3 or 4 pieces at once.
And smile at me. Keep going.
So you can see that like this second layer takes. I always say different evolution. Others making it.
What year did you guys get married?
1990.
And then flip it so that, yep. Beautiful.
Of the pinks, and again, like just to have a different. So like this one is that same kind of technique where they call it a peacock technique, where you just put in a bunch of dots, but you're putting it in and away, and another glaze on top that makes it run. But again, you're trying to get it to run like just enough or just the right amount. So this one's sold already.
How much did you sell that for?
Like $30.
Good.
But I have colors.
You just pick them up.
Sure. And then you put latex on it, you paint latex on it. And then once the latex dries, then you put another color on top. And then once that dries, then you peel the latex off. So then it leaves the design in place after you take the latex off. The same kind of thing I had done I think, yeah. These are all ones. No, yeah, so this was the same thing with that latex resist. Some experiments that way. So this one was dogs. But this is the kind of blending that I like, that I look for.
Distracting.
Back here is pretty quiet. That was kind of my goal. So